Hello, my name is Mary Jo Faustgen. Welcome to the second in the series of 5 COVID-19 support webinars. This one is on preventing depression during COVID-19. It's a very difficult time for all of us. So bear with me as we work through the slides here, and I'm hoping that this will help. Our world today feels like it's turning around. It feels like it's very confusing and chaotic to a lot of people, and it's very concerning. People are concerned at this point where we're headed in our nation, in our world, and in our whole planet. It can be really scary. So this can start up anxiety disorders, and it can also start up depression. So we're going to focus today on depression. Sometimes depression can feel like you're being drawn into a black hole. And it feels like there's a force that's pulling you in, and it's really hard to get out. It feels like you're spiraling down, and it feels like it's just sucking you in. It just feels powerless sometimes to control it. And this can lead to a lot of despair for people. The symptoms that depression can include go from mild to severe, and these are some of them. Certainly a depressed mood. People can get very irritable. You can have some low energy where it's really hard to get out of bed and your motivation is really low. You have low self-esteem. You don't believe in yourself. You have this poor concentration and memory. You might be sleeping too much. You might not be sleeping enough. You might be eating too much. You might be eating too little. And you can feel hopeless. You can feel despair. Sometimes people feel like there's no purpose in life anymore and that there's no will to live. And there can even be suicidal thoughts of you don't want to live anymore and or you want to harm yourself. And if that's the case, there is a national suicide prevention lifeline, 1-800-273-8255, or text LIFE to 61222. Fueling depression happens to a lot of people. What are your fuelers? Everybody may have different ones. So in COVID-19, it might be that you are finding issues with maybe your business is in trouble. You lost your business, you lost your income. Very hard for a lot of people. Maybe you've lost a loved one in COVID-19. Extremely hard. If you allow me, I'd like to share with you a little bit about my past and my journey into depression. A year ago, I was diagnosed with leukemia, a very fast growing and one that rapidly takes over the body. And certainly I was shocked. And what happened was the doctor said, okay, you need to do some chemo. So I did. I did my chemo and I thought, well, this will do it, but it didn't take my cancer away. So a few weeks later, the doctor came to me and he said, Mary Jo, I have to be honest with you and say that you have 5 weeks to live. Well, that sent me into my journey of depression. I think it was probably the lowest point in my life. But the doctor said there is one drug, there's one medication you can use. It's just now okayed by the FDA. And I said, okay, let's try it. It's a shot in the dark, but let's try it. And so we did. But in those days in the hospital, when I was waiting to see what would happen, I was feeling so helpless, so powerless. And, you know, I usually am optimistic, but I felt myself kind of pulled into that depression myself. And I felt dependent, totally dependent on the nurses and the doctors that were helping me, because that's all I had to deal with. And what I found out is that, okay, when I woke up in the morning, hey, I woke up. I've got another day to live. And so this was really hard for me. What I found out is that I had to start really working on myself to not be pulled into that depression. And so I tried this medication. It did get me into a remission. I thought, okay, that's it. I'm done. But the doctor said, I'm sorry, Mary Jo, this is only going to get you to a short-term remission. You need to have a bone marrow transplant. So I went through and I had my transplant and it saved my life. But I really had to work. I had to work really hard. I had to work at learning how to walk again. The cancer damaged my right arm, my dominant arm. I had to learn how to use my right arm again. And this was really hard for me, but I kept working on it and I did it. I was able to, with help, to be able to work through that depression. So I want to ask you, what fuels your depression? You need to know it. You need to find it so you can work on it. And so my journey continued. I had to really work on not being pulled into that black hole. There were times when I cried, of course. There were times when I wanted to quit. I just wanted to give up. But I had people all around me that believed in me and they were helping me and they really wanted to be there for me. And they wanted me to be positive and they were encouraging. But you know, sometimes there were times when I didn't want them around. I resented their happiness. You ever felt like that when you were depressed? You just didn't want to be around people. And that's what depression can do. It can cause more isolation than even COVID-19 can. And so what I had to learn is to not stay in that sadness, not stay in that depression. I had to fight it. And there were days when I had to fight it with every ounce of strength I had. So this slide is about prevention versus remediation. Remediation here means, you know, sometimes you have to go back and rework your life, repairing the damage that's done. And, you know, my father was a carpenter contractor, and he would always say, you know, Mary Jo, I'd much rather start fresh with a house than to remodel it. So much easier than dealing with people's problems and all the problems that can go wrong. So I'm just laying that out in front of you. To prevent depression and to prevent severe depression, even if you've got mild depression right now, is just so important. So to be proactive, to be motivated to work. Don't allow yourself to be drawn into that black hole. It's an act of the will to not be drawn into that black hole. So you have to make an active decision to plan what you're going to do. And to find your motivation here, whether it's positive or negative motivation, to be able to use that motivation. So for my case, my positive motivation was I wanted to live. I wanted to keep living for my family. The negative for me was I didn't want to die. I wasn't ready to die. I still had more things to do. So find your motivation, and you have to have enough motivation. And at a scale of 0 to 100, where's your motivation right now? What I've found with people is that they didn't necessarily do very well if their motivation wasn't at least 50, 60, 75%. But if it's at 100%, that's fantastic. You can really start working then if you really are motivated. So you have to find what that motivator is. You also have to find what beliefs that you have that are destructive. Do you tend to catastrophize? Do you tend to be pessimistic? Are you a person that controls and wants to control life? Do you feel inadequate? Do you have thinking that tends to be rigid? All these are very destructive and they can all lead into depression. So what's important here is that there needs to be a change up in your mindset. So rather than having that fixed mindset, work on having a growth mindset, that you want to grow, you want to build, you want to rebuild. And it might take an attitude adjustment. to reframe the negatives that you have. So important in life. So for catastrophizing, you might say, well, it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. To reframe pessimism, I can try to be positive about it. Take out the try. I can be positive about it. Reframing control. There are things I really can't control in life. And to reframe inadequacy. I can do some things well. What can I do well? And to reframe your rigid thinking. I can be flexible. I can work with people. The Serenity Prayer is so important. You know, I used to think this was kind of stupid because I, didn't really understand it. AA uses it, and the more I know about it, the more I really appreciate it. God grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change. And what can't I change? I can't change COVID-19. I can't change other people. I can't make them understand. I can't make them listen. Can I have the courage to change what I can, which is me? I can change me. I can work on me. And the wisdom to know the difference, because if you keep trying to change what you can't change, you're just going to be eternally frustrated. And so to take one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, and accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, isn't that what we all want? We want peace in our life. And to find the positives that you have. You know, I went to a positive psychology course during the last summer, when I had nothing to do but heal from my cancer. And this positive psychology course was from Martin Seligman, who is very famous. And he actually started up positive psychology. Can you imagine? Somebody had to start this thing called positive psychology. And what it does is it helps us to focus on the positive. Okay? Mental health oftentimes focuses on the diagnosis, focuses on the problems that we have. But positive psychology instead focuses on your character strengths. It focuses on the virtues that you have. It focuses on good things so that you can build your life again. So these three things are really important here, the three main categories here. To find three blessings or three good things every single day before you go to bed. What happened that was good? And to find a gratitude list and start it and build on it every day. The character strengths, that we all have character strengths. You need to find yours. And these are adapted from the positive psychology course that I took, the VIA Institute on Character, and they have a website I really encourage you to go to because it's wonderful. It's authentichappiness.sas.upenn.edu. And you can take assessments there to find out what your character strengths are if you don't know them. And when you're really depressed, it's hard to find things that are positive about you. But look at these. This is a wonderful list. Kindness. Let's just go through a couple. You know, the founder of Midwest Center, Jack Cornell, when he did his marriage enrichment seminars, he talked about just be kind to each other. Be kind to each other. How simple that is, but how hard it is, especially when you're depressed and irritable. Optimism. That's, everybody knows it's important to be optimistic, but what they actually found, and they proved that people who are optimistic have less of a risk of heart attack, less of a risk of cardiovascular problems. Isn't that what we would like? Yes. If you want to stay around, that's what you need. To forgive people. Self-control is needed for so many things, for eating, for alcohol, for drugs, for sexual self-control. Are you creative? Have you found the spiritual side of your life, whether that's in rituals or whether it's in the beliefs that you have? Or is it something like the Native Americans believe, where they are very connected to nature? Do you have courage to stand up for what you believe in life? Do you have the courage to be assertive when you need to be? And can you appreciate the wonders of life. And when you're really depressed, how important it is just to care for yourself, number one. And I rarely say that to people, except when depression is so severe that it's hard to deal with life. You need to come back to basics, to sleep well, to eat nutritious food, to exercise. And what I found out is that the more seminars I've taken on brain chemistry, they all say that exercise is so important for the brain and the body to be able to relax and to actually look at the fact that maybe medications might be okay right now. They might help to give you a little bit extra motivation, a little bit of a boost to moderate your alcohol consumption at this point, and maybe to brighten your environment. Maybe, I keep white Christmas lights around all during the year or in my house because that brightens me up. And maybe even to put on some music that brightens you up. And if you're in a place where you need to care for others, that's an important piece right now. Maybe you are a doctor, a nurse. Maybe you are somebody who has to care for others right now in your home or in their home. It's so important. That's a wonderful way sometimes to get out of your depression, because getting out of yourself can help you to not focus on yourself and not focus on your depression. So if you can volunteer right now to help in the pandemic, wonderful, that's great. If you're working in the hospital and you're totally exhausted, go back to caring for yourself. It is such a balance, hard balance, but an important balance. And to be able to reframe those negatives that you have and to work on affirmations for yourself, because you are important. So maybe you have debt right now that's really difficult for you. So you can tell yourself, I can pay off my debt a little at a time. Maybe you are in the midst of a job loss. You can tell yourself, I can find another job. I can get stronger so I can endure this. If it's grief and loss, I can't change the loss, but I can learn how to deal with it daily. And if maybe it's your health, I can take care of myself the best I can. I have to trust the doctors and nurses and the people that are caring for me. And maybe you're worried about the future. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can take one day at a time. So kind of like the little engine that could, that the old story for the children, to be able to say, I can do this. I can learn how to cope. I can get stronger physically, mentally, spiritually. I can use my character strengths to help me. I can learn how to manage my depression and my anxiety. And this slide is about the fact that we are all body, mind, and spirit. And so we need to learn how to work with our body, with our mind, and with our spirit. And I tell my clients, this is hard work. This is hard homework that I'm giving you, but it's good work. It helps give you hope when you can do something, when you feel like you can have something that you can do that gives you a little bit more hope in life. And to appreciate the small things in life. Look at this beautiful flower. To be able to see the color and appreciate the color. And to be able to appreciate the intricacies of the flower. How beautiful it is inside of it and all the colors in there. And to appreciate the fact that you can see it, that your sight is working, that you're able to use your brain and your eyes and all those parts of your body to appreciate life. And happiness, happiness seems kind of elusive when you are depressed, but did you realize that we have actually happy hormones in us? Everybody knows about endorphins, or a lot of people do anyway. Endorphins we can get when we exercise, and how important that is to be able to exercise. And so get those happy hormones going in you. Get down to the treadmill, take yourself outside, even if it's winter, and get yourself to be able to get those endorphins going. The other happy hormone we can have, that we do have in our body, is dopamine. And this is the one that you can have when you have an anticipation of reward. And so if you have goals that you can make, if you are willing to do those daily check-ins and say, am I working on my goals? Do I need to reset? Important for you to be able to get that dopamine going in your body. These are some excerpts from something I wrote that's called The Journey of a Positive Attitude. I'm going to read it verbatim because there's a lot here. To be able to smile more, frown less. Enjoy the warm sunshine on your face. To calm the inner chaos, to experience life around you. To appreciate the talents you have been given. To appreciate the gift of being, for you have value in simply being. To remember the good times when the bad times come. To know that you can become stronger through adversity. To find something to live for, a purpose for your life. To find a positive support system, to be a positive support system for other people, to help others. And that way you may forget about your own troubles. To be kind and forgiving because you want to help others. And so I want to leave you with a summary that depression can be managed with hope, with help from other people, and with support. I want to thank you for joining me. I hope this can be very helpful for you. Thank you so much.